Good morning, everyone. My name is Nathan Tubbs. I am joined by my friend and colleague, Matt McVay. And today we're going to be going through our first our first episode in a series of videos that we want to do on science teaching in Alabama and AUTeach, our program here at Auburn University. And so this is, being the first episode, it's going to be more of an introductory episode where you're going to learn more about who we are and what our relationship to AUTeach is, our journey to get here, sort of what we want to do overall. And then in future videos, we hope to have some guests on that are either former science teachers or work in educational development, administration, just different stakeholders that are invested in education here in Alabama, just to increase this conversation and increase the scope of our conversation. But that's for later. Like I said, today is just an introduction. Consider this maybe episode 0 of hopefully a series that will be more than that. But with all that in mind, what I want to do is I just want to turn the conversation on us. And I already said our names, but Matt, who are you and what do you do here at Auburn University? What's your job?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My role here is as co-director of AUTeach. So AUTeach is a program that spans 2 colleges at Auburn University, the College of Science and Mathematics, and then the College of Education. And each college has a director represented on for the AUTeach program, and I represent the College of Education as the co-director.
Okay, so co-director of AUTeach. And so you've been in that role for about a year.
This is year 1 for that.
Year one for the co-director. Prior to being co-director, what did you do for AUTeach?
So I was the original. The position is called master teacher. So AUTeach is within a program of a national program called UTeach, and the position within UTeach of the master teacher is someone who has been a middle school, high school, some type of secondary teacher recently, who can kind of bring that practical expertise to the college classroom. And it's not necessarily someone who has a professor or academic background, but someone who can partner with the university and the research faculty to teach students how to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And so that was my first role when AUTeach started. I left the classroom, which I never thought I would do because I loved teaching. But I saw the purpose of AUTeach as being really important for our state, and just wanted to help out with making more science teachers for the state.
Okay, so started out as master teacher for AUTeach, now co-director for the education side. To provide some context here, we are colleagues at AUTeach. I am the second master teacher in the program. So both of us have that role of teaching mainly these introductory level classes, which we'll probably talk about at some point, but also have the option of mentoring and training throughout the entirety of science education here at Auburn University. So co-director, master teacher, you mentioned coming out of the classroom. Yeah. Now, just for the context of the conversation, you said that the position that we're in is not intrinsically designed to be an academic position, but you are actually, both of us are currently pursuing advanced degrees. So we can maybe talk about that at a later point as well. But you said we're not necessarily academics, but we've served in an academic role in other places. So what did you do prior to, quote, leaving the classroom? You said you left the classroom to come here. So what did that look like?
So I was a middle school, high school teacher. I taught 8th and 9th grade science. The beginning part of my career, I taught 8th grade physical science, and then I shifted into more of my background, which was biology. I taught 9th grade biology. I taught grade level biology. I taught advanced biology, and I loved it. I loved the opportunity to interact with kids. I didn't see myself picking a career just because I wanted to help people, although it became something that I just really enjoyed. And there was never a day where I questioned, am I making a difference in people's lives? It was really obvious that I was having a positive impact on the students that I was interacting with, and that was fun. It was addicting teaching them about science. I came from a biology background. My master's is in biology, and I particularly enjoy biology.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I could help these 14, 15-year-olds grasp some cool things about biology, that was fun for me, especially when there's students who, say, I don't like science. And then there's something about your class that they're like, actually, I think I do like this. Or when there's students that come in and say, I do like science, and you can help open their eyes to more of what science is and, different content areas that they didn't know that they would be interested in. Or when students are struggling with science and you kind of help them see how they can be successful in science. That was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
So
we definitely don't want to be prideful as teachers, but there is something about when you ask students, what their favorite class is, and they're like, it's science. Or they come to you and they say, you're my favorite teacher, but you told me you don't like science, but I love your class. And that's we live for those things because it really does make us feel better. How long were you in the science classroom in middle school and high school?
Yeah, I taught for 6 years, which doesn't feel like that long.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely long enough to understand, changes in time and different things that trends in education a little bit at least. I taught both before, during, and after COVID. So I think that definitely helped with my perspective on the education field as well.
Yeah. Oh man. So 6 years in the classroom, that is a long time when you look at attrition rates, around the country. For the most part, that is a long time. And I know, my experience in New York City, coming from Alabama, but going to New York City and teaching there 16 years. I look back and I'm like, man, I was a middle school science teacher for 16 years and it flew by like that, But I like what you said, having the opportunity to teach pre, during, and post-COVID really opens your eyes to a lot of different things in terms of education, because I see how I did things before COVID. And I also had a chance to teach in an era when we went from having a computer cart in the classroom, or maybe not even having a computer cart in the classroom, having a computer cart somewhere on the floor where you might have to borrow computers, to having a computer cart in the classroom, to having students carry their own devices, and to see that change, and to see also the integration of things like Google Classroom. I mean, that was not a thing when I started teaching online learning. That was more of a collegiate level thing. In the middle school, we didn't do, have an online, learning management system. It was maybe we had different things like IXL or, different curricular materials that would be online, but there was no centralized, we use this to learn. So it's really neat to see how just in a short period of time, 16 years is not long. I mean, I worked with teachers who taught 30 years, who taught 40 years, and I just had a slice of that. But to see all that change, and COVID really is that linchpin. I was talking to a friend the other day who said, in our era, there will always be that, well, before COVID we did this, and after COVID we did that. Just like I think of, people who said, World War II, and I don't want to try to equate COVID to the, like World War II, but there is this notion that there were things that were done in this country a certain way before World War II, and then there were things that were done after World War II. And now we look at COVID or 9/11, there being this dividing line. And so it's just interesting to see that these world events do really shape what happens in the classroom and education. So it was a little bit of a tangent there, but just to get back into these, these introductory, topics. So co-director AUTeach, master teacher AUTeach, middle school, high school. Auburn City Schools is a little weird in the sense that they've got 9th grade is still at the junior high, which is not always the case for a lot of school districts. But how did you get to Auburn Junior High? Because you mentioned, you said it sort of on the fly, I have a master's degree in biology, but you don't have an undergraduate in education, do you?
No, I do not. And my path to certification was a little bit atypical. So when I came to college, I was interested in science. I did not. I never. Looking back, there was never a time where I said I don't want to be a teacher. The thought just never crossed my mind. It was never anything that was proposed to me. It was never anything that anyone said, "Hey, you should consider doing this." I don't think I had any particular tendencies that made me feel like a teacher, or that someone would say, "Hey, I think you would be a good teacher." That never came up.
Yeah.
And I was interested in marine biology. My focus was on marine ecosystems and sea anemone population dynamics, and I knew that I wanted to. I knew I needed to get a graduate degree, and I thought I wanted to study. Work with some type of Department of Natural Resources at the state level, possibly. And so I went to graduate school, and to pay for school, I had a teaching assistantship that gave me a stipend, but more importantly, gave me a tuition waiver. And to earn that,
Absolutely.
I was a GTA, a graduate teaching assistant. And the first assignment that I was given was anatomy and physiology 2, which I took anatomy in high school, but I didn't need to take anatomy in college. And so
Okay. So for the viewers here,
yes,
what was your undergrad in?
my undergrad was in fisheries.
Okay, so here you are with a fisheries undergrad and doing a marine biology master's degree, and you're asked to teach human
anatomy,
anatomy and physiology. Okay, just so there's some understanding here of what's happening at graduate level teaching assistantships. Okay, go ahead.
And so I thought the same thing. I was like, why that one? They don't really take an inventory of what you've done. You're a graduate student in biology. Here's a biology course that we need a GTA for.
Yeah,
you're getting it.
Awesome.
And so I was kind of dreading it. I had not taken that class. I knew there were going to be students that would ask things like, when you took this class, how did you study this? And there were, and I would just have to be very diplomatic about, like, well, you should do it. You should study this way. Or if I were you, I would do this. I tried to not lead on that. I was like, well, I don't know. I never took this class.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just showing up every day.
But that helped me stay ahead of the students, because like I was teaching the labs, and so I had to learn the labs. I had to learn the stuff. I had to learn muscles and bones and physiology of organ systems in ways that I had not really had to learn before. And so that was enjoyable, but it didn't really have anything to do with the topic that I was studying for my thesis. But it, like, that quest of trying to learn the stuff so that I could appear knowledgeable to the students was I guess a little fun in itself. But the thing that as one professor said one time, the thing that caused me to be bit by the bug of teaching was when I realized that I could help students that were struggling with the content. I could present it to them in a way, or I could cause them to come to the conclusion that they needed to in a way that helped them succeed. That was addicting. That was really fun for me, because even though anatomy and physiology wasn't my background, it's still enjoyable. I still enjoyed learning the science behind it.
Yeah.
And so, and also I knew it was important for them. These are people that are going to be, I don't know, future nurses or whatever. And so it was important for them to know. And so that gave it a little more value to me. And it was a lot of fun to help them be successful at that course. And fast forward a little bit, towards the end of my degree, I started realizing, like, I enjoyed the science, and we did some really cool things. I got to travel around the world, collect a lot of data, and we published some of that, and that was really fun. But at the end of the day, the part that I enjoyed the most was teaching. And so I was like, maybe I should look into this. But yeah, that was kind of my introduction to teaching, was being thrown into the fire of a course that I'd never taken before, and trying to help these students who really needed that course
Gotcha.
understand the content.
So you became a teacher, not studying to become a teacher, and then you did your emergency certification. But now you're in this role,
Provisional certificate.
Now you're in this role where you're now training teachers. And once again, just for context here, so that there's an understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, I too am not a traditional teacher. Interestingly enough, my undergraduate is in
Marine biology.
You've got two marine biologists sitting here at the table, right? Or two people that have trained to be marine biologists sitting here at the table.
We've studied marine
biology. And for me, it was thinking about possible ministry options. I mean, I was getting a master divinity degree and ended up feeling led to go to New York City to work in church development there, but needed a job to pay the bills. And I had someone, I was on the beach. Actually, I was on the beach in Africa, of all places, and I was working with an NGO there. And my supervisor, because when you take a marine biologist to the beach, you're probably going to get a lesson. It's what happens, you know. I'm sitting on the beach and I've got these kids around me, and I've got some echinoderms. I've got some urchins and some, starfish, and we're talking about this. And there's little tidal pools there right on the Indian Ocean. It was gorgeous. And my supervisor comes over to me and goes, "Man, Nate, you have a passion for this. Have you ever thought about teaching?" And I never really did. But then when I started making this pathway to move to New York and I realized I needed something to pay the bills, I found a teaching fellowship, New York City Teaching Fellows. And they said, "Hey, if you have a degree, we can put you in a classroom." Well, great. I applied and was accepted. And so my first time teaching was actually standing in front of a middle school classroom. That was mine. That was my introduction to teaching. But through a federal funding program, got a master's in education, and thought I would just teach for a few years, but ended up doing it for 16. Mm-hmm. And there were days it was really hard. And we talk about that with our student interns and our brand new teachers. There were days when it was really hard, but it was also super rewarding. As you've already mentioned, just having the opportunity to take my passion for science and relay that to students is the thing that got me through the days that were hard, where I was dealing with administrators, or I was dealing with parents, or I was dealing with decisions made by somebody down in City Hall with no connection to the classroom. I was just able to look at my group of students and go, okay, what do they need from me today? And also just being a stable point in their life, really, because you got students coming from all over the world, all different types of backgrounds, a lot of instability, but they knew what they were getting when they walked in my classroom every day. Mm-hmm. They knew what my expectations were because they were plastered on the wall. These are my classroom expectations. And there were times I would say, "Wait, what did you just say? How does that interact with number 2?" And they'd go, "Oh, Mr. Tubbs, you're right." And so there was that stability there, and the light bulb moments, or having the students come and say, "I like this class a lot." Yeah. And they're whispering because they don't want their friends to hear because they're middle schoolers. But I like the fact that, and it's interesting that both you and I, here we are working for Auburn University College of Education, and we are working in a science education program, but neither of us were science education majors, and neither of us came to the table, with a science education background, yet here we are now in this college environment. And so what are we doing here? You mentioned it, in the beginning, AUTeach, part of this wider network, but what is it exactly the two of us are doing as non-traditional educators trying to train educators? And what is it and why? Who is AUTeach? What is UTeach? How do we fit into that?
Yeah, so that's a lot to unpack. I'll try to address all of it.
Let's go back to what is UTeach? What is UTeach to begin with?
The UTeach model started at University of Texas at Austin 27 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the goal was to attract students from particular fields like science and math who were studying that as their undergraduate degree to consider also being certified as teachers. Mm-hmm. At most programs, it's added on as a minor. At some, it's as a double major, like it is at Auburn. But it's a way to help train students to open their career opportunities. Mm-hmm. like both of us, we did not originally go to school to be teachers. And I think that it's somewhat common. I mean, we both have taught with many teachers that were in the same shoes, in the same boat, that they ended up science teaching, even though that was not their original plan.
Yep. In fact, most of the science teachers that I worked with over 16 years in New York City were non-traditional route educators.
And there's a lot of reasons that push people into that. But I think one thing that we want to highlight to our students is that this may be a viable and enjoyable career that you would be great at and you would love, that you haven't considered. And I know that's true because I'm that way. And I taught with a number of science teachers that were that way. And so we, with the AUTeach idea and doing it here at Auburn University with AUTeach, we want to capture those students earlier so that they can go through a program where they can be better trained. You and I, our secondary education training was in a secondary education classroom where we were
job training.
We were the teacher of record. We closed the door and we're in there with these students, and that was our education. And we both had some things that we did external to that to make us certifiable. But we, with programs like AUTeach and AUTeach, we want to get those students earlier on so that we can give them better training. We want them to see earlier on, actually, I may like this. Or with the introductory courses that we'll probably talk about in a little bit, to have that opportunity to explore if I want to do this. Because some students who particularly like science have had those thoughts. I never had those thoughts in undergrad, but some of the students have had the thought, I wonder if I want to be a teacher, but they don't really have the opportunity to test the waters. And so an introductory level class, like the exploration classes that the AUTeach model offers, gives students kind of a low stakes way to test the waters to see if it's for them before committing to a teacher prep program.
Gotcha. Let me pause here. Just once again, I said this a lot, but for context, because this is the context video. We're setting the stage for other conversations here. But you talk about AUTeach, University of Texas Austin, late 90s, developed this model where they're trying to get non-education majors, but science and math majors to consider a pathway to education. So that was at University of Texas Austin. Now, that model has grown through a network called the AUTeach network to approximately 50 schools.
51, 52 schools across the country.
We'll say approximately 50, just so we're not wrong there, but approximately 50 schools nationwide. And all the way from out west to the Northeast to Florida, several SEC schools have AUTeach programs. I think Florida, LSU,
Tennessee,
Auburn, I think maybe Tennessee. So several SEC schools have these as well. But 11 years ago, UAB launched a AUTeach program, and they had been doing pretty well in their program. But a few years ago, something happened in the state of Alabama. The state of Alabama recognized that we need more science teachers. We need more science and math teachers. We need more STEM teachers. And so, what happened a few years ago in the state of Alabama?
Well, I'm going to back up even further.
Okay.
I mean, the science teacher shortages have been pretty rough in Alabama the last couple of decades, and that's true across the country. All 50 states within the last decade have had at least a short time of struggling to fill science teacher positions.
And that's why we have things like New York City Teaching Fellows and Math for America and Teach for America. That's why we have these programs.
Yeah. So there's a definitely notable science teacher shortage in states like Alabama. And Alabama in particular, across the last 20 years or so, has really pushed to have industry come in, like that may be STEM related, or there are corporations coming into Alabama, not just national corporations, but international corporations are moving production and headquarters to Alabama because of incentives that the Alabama government is providing. And the state government realizes, well, we're bringing in all these corporations. A lot of them are STEM related that require STEM workforce.
Building rockets, building submarines, building cars.
Yeah, airplanes.
Airplanes. Yep.
But also industry like nuclear power. The nation's third largest nuclear power plant is in Alabama. Hydroelectricity, natural gas.
Yeah.
A lot of those fields, especially at upper level positions and in management, those are positions that need highly trained STEM workers. And so the realization is that there's not enough of a STEM workforce in Alabama. And it's this idea that we need to grow our own STEM workforce. And when you see high teacher shortages, especially in science and math as well, coupled with the need for a STEM workforce, the state is trying to address that. And they've done that in a number of admirable ways in the last 10 years, but especially with things like the TEAMS Act, where eligible math and science teachers can make lots more money per year.
That's an incentive.
We're talking $15,000 to $20,000 in some places above the regular salary. That shows a commitment on the state to attract and retain high quality math and science teachers.
Yeah.
But also the state legislature set aside money in the state budget to support AUTeach at more than just UAB, which they've been doing an awesome job. But they saw the success at UAB and said, we need to do that across Alabama and we
in other places.
other places. And we give the Alabama STEM Council a lot of credit for that and pushing for that. And the STEM Council was initiated by Governor Ivey. And so those are things that we look at, and we're just really grateful for the state, for the future STEM workforce, but also for raising up more science and math teachers for Alabama, which is a huge need. And so they committed millions of dollars across a few years to seed these programs at 6 more institutions. So there's, in addition to UAB now, there's 6 other institutions across Alabama that have a AUTeach model that are attracting undergraduates from math and science backgrounds.
Athens State, Alabama A&M, West Alabama,
University of South Alabama,
AUM, and Auburn. And then UAB, the OG. So seven schools total doing this in Alabama right now.
Yep.
And then that's where you came on, the original master teacher here.
Yeah, that started in fall of 2023. And so we're, fall of 2025 now. We're halfway through year 3. The initial funding from the state goes through spring of 27, and from what it seems like, these programs will hopefully continue beyond that. Hopefully, we can show the worth of it and the production of producing science teachers and math
more
teachers.
Science teachers and math teachers. Yeah.
Auburn University in particular just has a science program for the AUTeach program. The others also do math as well.
And for the sake of the listeners, we try to be intimately connected with those other programs, meeting regularly, chatting regularly, trying to support one another as much as possible, because we all face similar challenges in what we're doing in recruitment or in just working in these university contexts of trying to initiate a new program. But it is really neat to see, and just to piggyback off what you said, the notion of just being thankful for the legislature, for Governor Ivey, for people, Alabama STEM Council, Department of Workforce, these people saying we need to make an investment, not just because we have jobs, but now we are getting to do some really cool things here at Auburn University and our colleagues at other schools as well, because we're getting to see students have exposure to teaching early in their college career and are now being able to say, I never really thought about teaching. I always enjoyed science, always enjoyed learning. I never really thought about teaching, but here I have an opportunity to teach this might be something that I want to do. Maybe I don't want to do it full time. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but I at least want to continue. I at least want to learn more. And I know we've already had some graduates. We're planning to have some graduates in the spring. So we are producing, but I want to talk about how we get to that production. Like, what does that actually look like? What does that pipeline look like here? Because we've talked a little bit about exploratory classes, but what does it look like for a college freshman, a COSAM student, College of Science and Mathematics student, a science student, to come to Auburn and be exposed to AUTeach? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we do a lot of recruiting in classes. Our student advisor, recruiter, Sam, does an awesome job of making connections with professors and with students and having info sessions and
Camp War Eagle,
getting current AUTeach students to help out with spreading the word and recruiting and tabling events. But we go out and try to promote to students that are in the College of Sciences and Math that this is an opportunity for them to just try it out. You're not making a commitment to the double major. You're not making a commitment to the teacher program or to being certified. But if you'll take this first course, it counts as an elective for you. This first course will help you see if it's something you want to continue in. We provide we don't go into a lot of teaching pedagogy and the research behind teaching theory. We dabble in it, and we give them enough to get them interested and to be successful.
You let them dip their toes in the kiddie pool of methodology.
Yeah. But I think the biggest strength of these intro courses is the students actually are provided an opportunity to teach science lessons to real kids in real schools.
So like this semester, I had a group of 8 college freshmen, none of whom were education majors. They're all, and just to be clear, our students are not education majors. They are College of Science and Math science majors. They have an opportunity to double major, but when they come to that introductory course, they are COSAM students. And so I have 8 brand new college freshmen COSAM students. And in fall of their freshman year, they're standing in front of an elementary class teaching a lesson on science. Now, it's not a lesson that they had to write. We seed that greatly. We demo the lesson for them, let them see that. We model the lesson. And I was telling a group of people the other day, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We do everything except actually put the pieces in the puzzle. We build the corners. We set the box up. We sort it out by color and shape.
They've seen us build a puzzle.
They've seen us build a puzzle. Or they've seen us build that puzzle already, and then they get to go out and teach it. And it's really interesting to see what happens to those students when they have that opportunity to teach.
Yeah. There's a lot of research into what could motivate, or how could we better recruit students from a science background into a teaching program. But very, very few are looking at, what motivates an undergraduate in science to pursue teaching. And no study has ever looked at like, how does a course like this change someone's motivation? That's part of the research that we're doing here. Is
I was about to say that sounds like some future research that's happening.
That's some research that's ongoing here. Is how does their motivation to pursue teaching actually change across this course? And there's also some research has looked at even putting students in classrooms. Or giving them some educational experiences, but some of those educational experiences have been like helping them or giving them opportunities to intern at a summer camp, informal science teaching, or observing in classrooms and helping out with the teacher. But the strength of the UTeach model and that intro level class is these students are getting authentic teaching experiences. They are teaching the lesson.
They are the teachers. Yeah. And so we have, the way it's done here at Auburn is there's really 2 options they can take. They can take a 2-course option, which we call step 1 and step 2, which step 1, basic introduction, go into a few elementary classrooms. And then step 2, We go a little bit deeper. We're still in the kiddie pool, but we go a little bit deeper into methodology and cognition for middle schoolers, and they have a chance to teach the middle school lesson. So that's 2 semesters, 1 credit hour each, or depending on where they are in their college career, we take those 2 courses and smush them together, and we get what we call the step combo class, which is a 2-hour course. They do elementary and middle school same semester. Once again, they could be a spring semester college freshman. I mean, they were just in a secondary setting less than a year ago.
For the freshmen, yeah.
For the freshmen, and now they're going out into middle schools and teaching science. And that is where the light bulb comes on. Wow, I really like this. This is neat. And we've even seen it this semester with some of our students going, okay, I want to even adjust my major so it fits better with the AUTeach model because I want to do this. I'm still going to study my science, but now I want to teach. And it's because they had exposure to it. You had exposure in a lab. I had exposure sitting on a beach talking and, doing some other teaching through my church and stuff. And you get bit and then you want to pursue it.
Yeah. And I think that's a reason that this program is so interesting and why, why I'm so invested in it, why I think it's so good. I mean, I thought that I was going to continue teaching 9th grade biology the rest of my career, and then I wanted to. That's what I wanted to do. I loved it. But I was also starting to see a great need in the state. Because I taught in a school district that it was a great school district that a lot of teachers wanted to come to. Yeah. But even in school districts like that, it can be hard to find a science teacher at times. And so, especially in areas of Alabama that teachers are not flocking to, there are many areas in the state where high school level science.
We are very close to some of those areas. I mean, Macon County is one of those areas. Yeah. Lee County, there's some areas in Lee County that have been hard to staff. Russell County.
Where in a number of places in the state, many of their high school level science teachers are taught by people who are not certified in that area of science. And so there's a huge need. And so that was one of the reasons that I took this opportunity to start teaching here, was that we have an opportunity to help raise up new science teachers for Alabama. And so that's just kind of become a personal goal is let's try to get more.
and at some point there is the notion of multiplication that each of us, if we really want to have an impact, and we love that impact we're having in the classroom, as educators, we can say, well, do I want to continue having just this impact, or can I multiply myself by training other teachers? Where if I'm hitting, let's say I'm hitting 120 students a year. Sorry, I'm not hitting them, but I'm impacting. Well, still that's different words, but I'm impacting with education. Influencing. There we go. Influencing 120 students a year in my classroom. That's what I had. 120 students. That was it. What is the greater impact? That 120 students a year, or me taking a step back and saying, now I'm going to train 8 teachers who are now all going to go out and have 120 students a year. And then the next year, I'm training another 8 or however many. And so for me, that's one of the things that I really love about where I am right now is I feel I had pretty good impact on a lot of students. And I'm not trying to say that pridefully. I saw it, students, and especially that middle school. We talk about this in our class where middle school is sort of that linchpin where students come in excited about science because in elementary school, it's always involved an experiment or something fun. And they get to middle school and it very quickly becomes drudgery because now we're testing and we're doing it every day and we're lab reports. And there's an opportunity for students to either continue in that love of science or to just be driven away. And I got to see students come into my classroom and leave still liking science. I was like, hey, good job,
Yeah, and that's like that age is such a great age. Why I loved teaching that age is because they're young enough still to like really be wowed by science and really be in awe of it and just be like, wow, this is really cool. This is the first time I've ever heard that. But they're also old enough that where you can get into a little more complex topics with them. And then it just kind of helps them grab on even tighter than like, oh, wow, this is
fun.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I think for me, we talk about, those moments when, students, the light bulb goes on, or they talk about how they're excited about science, or oh, you're my favorite teacher. Those kind of moments where it's sort of good for us, that those feel good moments. I think my best feel good moment teaching here so far was have one of my students come to me at the end of the semester and say, I always thought I wanted to do high school, but after sitting in your class, I'm thinking I want to do middle school. I was like, yes, that is exactly what I want to hear, because especially for our young women, that is just when that STEM engagement just starts to click off. And what we're doing here is we have an opportunity to just push students to consider those grades, to consider those 7 to 12 grades, because it's such an impactful time. And as you said, if we're trying to develop our own workforce here in the state of Alabama, and I'm glad the legislature and Governor Ivey have seen this, and the Alabama STEM Council, it's really sort of a top-down problem. We can't have, and we heard one of our department heads even here in COSAM say this: we can't get quality PhD students if we don't have quality undergraduates. And we're not going to get quality undergraduates who, and I say quality in the sense that they want to study the science. We're not going to get those undergraduates if they don't have that access to the education in high school. And they're not going to take those advanced science subjects in high school if they're not intrigued in middle school. And so it really does start, we have to be putting people who can teach in all those areas, so that way we can get those researchers out. We can get those STEM managers to go to these different fields. And so we have an opportunity. We are attacking that problem daily here at AUTeach.
Yeah, and so we kind of getting back to your question earlier, how do we get students in? So that we talked about that entry level class, but once they complete that intro level class, they have the opportunity to apply to the teacher program, to apply officially to AUTeach, and then that sets them on a course for a double major. And at most UTeach institutions, it's a minor, but at Auburn, it sets them up for a double major. And they'll take pedagogy classes, they'll take methods classes where they get things like classroom management and lesson planning strategies, teaching strategies, teacher-centered, student-centered teaching strategies, how to implement technology in the classroom, perspectives on science history. They go through all of that, and then that leads up to their the final semester where they are apprentice teaching, or they're doing their internship.
Student teachers.
They are student teachers in a classroom for a semester, and then that leads to certification ultimately. So our students will graduate with their science degree, but also they'll be certified to teach science in Alabama for grades 6 through 12.
And that's awesome. They still leave with their science degree and an education degree. And so they want to pursue science. If they want to pursue some type of professional school, if they want to go to grad school, that door is open to them, as well as teaching. And we won't name drop because we don't want to do that, but we have...
Sounds like you're about to.
No. I'm not going to do that. But we have principals calling saying, hey, do you have any graduates? Because there are current openings in the state of Alabama, and enough people know about what we're doing where they say, okay, do you have any graduates? And we're trying to get them out. We're doing everything we can to get those graduates out. So there are opportunities for these students who didn't realize that they even enjoyed doing this. And now we can say, hey, if you continue in AUTeach, there's a job waiting for you. And I'm not saying education is the only place like this, but there's not a ton of fields where you can almost be guaranteed a job upon graduating. There's a lot of fields where it's, and to graduate and get a job in your field. Yeah. We could go do a deep dive into majors where people major in something and then they end up never working in that. But education is one of those things where if you graduate certified to teach science in the state of Alabama, we will find a job for you.
Yeah, and that contrasts with people who are just getting their undergraduate in, say, biology or chemistry. A lot of those people may not end up in a career that is a biology job or that is a chemistry job, but if they can couple that interest with a career field that there's a big need in, it opens the door for their career possibilities. And we found here, I don't know how it is at all universities, but at Auburn University, we found that there's a lot of misconceptions about the teaching field. We hear all the time that teachers don't get paid enough, which I'm not going to disagree with. But when we actually show students how much teachers, especially with things like the Teams Act in Alabama, that has really helped with our recruiting. So please keep that up.
Please keep that up.
When we show them how much money teachers can make in their first year,
Yeah.
compared to the salary that they could get with a bachelor's degree in their field.
I was about to say, as a marine biology undergrad, you're working as an aquarist at a aquarium somewhere making peanuts.
And so you compare those salaries and then like look at, all right, say year 15, and you compare, those salaries. And so we're able to change their perspective or address those misconceptions. And
then benefits and like healthcare and retirements and things like that,
which we found undergraduates don't really like to talk about.
It's funny. Undergrad, well, of course they're not going to care about that because they're not to that point in life yet. But now when you get to be our age and you're like, man,
the benefits of teaching
are great. So PHIP, yeah, okay.
So we've been able to, through classes like this, we're able to address some of those misconceptions. We did a survey of Auburn students, and we had 530 something science students, and just seeing what they thought science teachers would make in their first year, and then showing them what they actually make. It's surprising to a lot of them, or asking them survey questions about the viability of a teaching career. What do you think, or how long do you think teachers stay in the field, or how would teachers rate their jobs? And it's surprising to some of the students. They're like, I've heard that there are bad things about teaching and people have pushed me away from it. But like there's bad things in every job. Otherwise it wouldn't be called a job.
Otherwise it would not be called a job. That's right.
And so when you can show students who love science, and that's another thing we found in our surveys, was that the majority of these, like over 90% of these 530 something students said that they want a job where they feel like they're making an impact on people, where they can help people.
And that's teaching.
And we already know they love science because they're majoring in science. And so here's a career opportunity that pays better than you think it does.
Yeah.
Has benefits beyond what you understand. And you get to teach science, which is fun.
Well, and I think about my time in the classroom, and there were days that it was hard, and it might have been hard because of, there's always going to be different things, and it might be the climate that the administration sets at the school, the lack of involvement of some parents. We could go on, and there's plenty of teacher podcasts out there where they talk about parents and administrators and that kind of stuff.
And classroom management is a real issue.
And it can be, and it depends on the culture of your student sitting there in front of you. If we looked at where you taught versus where I taught, we're talking very different cultures, But at the end of the day, it was so cool being able just to spend my day talking about science. And there were days I would leave the house and my kids would say, "Dad, what are you going to do at school today?" And I would say, "We're going to set stuff on fire all day long." And their eyes would get really big and they'd be like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, we're building spacecraft heat shields and we're testing their durability over a blowtorch." And I'd go to school and I'd be standing in the classroom and I'd have my blowtorch and my safety goggles and I'm setting stuff on fire and got the windows open and people coming in going, "What's burning down here? Oh, that's cool. Can I stay and watch?" And
don't try this at home.
Yeah. I actually had a video of me doing something one time that I posted on my teacher YouTube page, and it was, I put the lower third, "Do not attempt this at home, only in Mr. Tubbs' classroom." But then you do those things. And the students come in the next day and go, "What are we burning today?" "Well, we're not burning anything today, but this is what we're going to be doing after we get through this content." And you engage them. And then they come in and they get excited and then they leave. And there's these moments that stand out. And I know we had one with you the other day with a former student who basically talked about the impact that you made on him in the classroom. And it made me think of, over my time, two students really stand out in terms of the impact that you make. One student, it was years after I had him. I'm now in a different school, and I see this kid teaching in our after-school program. I say kid because here I am in my 30s, and he's 18 or 19. And I say, do I know you from somewhere? He goes, yeah, you had me at Pershing in 7th grade science. And I was like, remind me your name. We started talking. I said, what are you doing now? He said, I'm majoring in chemistry. I said, that's interesting. Chemistry is an interesting, even here at Auburn, I don't meet a lot of chemistry majors, why chemistry? He goes, I loved learning about atoms and molecules in your class in 7th grade. And that just made it click for me. And because of that intro, now I'm studying chemistry. And I was just like, wow, that's cool. And then sometime around the same time, I had a student come into my classroom one day, a college student, knocked on my door. Hey, Mr. Tubbs, can I come in for a minute? And I immediately recognized her as a former student. I said, hey, so-and-so, what are you doing here? She goes, well, I'm studying English education. But I wanted just to come by. I'm doing pre-observation or, less pre-observing, where she's coming in just observing the English teacher. And she lived next door to the school, so it was a natural choice for her. And she said, I just want to come by and give you something. She handed me a note. And this was a really, really good student I had. In fact, we did poster presentations on Martian geology at the end of the school year, and I still had her poster on the wall. It was that level of work that I used it as the exemplar for years, and I still had it on the wall. I was like, hey, look, there's your poster up there. You did a great job, because she was just a top-notch student. She gave me a note and walked out, and I opened the letter and read it. And it was, hey, Mr. Tubbs, I just want to let you know, you didn't know this at the time, but my parents were going through a divorce, and I was really struggling, where I fit in this world, and, all the emotional kind of stuff. And she goes, the one constant thing that I could look forward to every day was your science class. And your science class is what got me through that year. And I just sat there in silence. But it made me realize that you just never know the impact you're having on students. It's like a training video. When I was in an Air Force training, I did this training video where it was actually used by Chick-fil-A, and it shows a restaurant, and it pans out over the restaurant. And many of you listening to this are probably too young to remember pop-up video on VH1. Do you remember pop-up video on VH1? Yeah, where things would just, pop up, and it's like pop-up video, and you're scrolling.
Facts about that.
You're scrolling through the restaurant, and little word bubbles pop up over the people, and it's like this woman over here sitting there eating her chicken nuggets by herself. Today's her 60th wedding anniversary, and her first wedding anniversary without her husband. And she's just sitting there eating by herself. And then you pan to like a mom and some young kids, and it's mom just got laid off from her job, but today is her daughter's birthday, and she wanted Chick-fil-A for lunch. So she's using the last of her known paycheck to take her kid out to lunch. And then over here, this is this couple's first date, like this young, teenage, young college age couple, their first date, they can only afford Chick-fil-A. And it goes to the restaurant. But the thrust of the video was, you never know what's going on with the people in front of you. So that's why you try to be kind and courteous and set things up. And I think it's the same way for us as teachers. We never know what's going on in the lives of our students, truly. Mm-hmm. And I could tell story after story of finding out things after the fact and going, oh man, and I was probably not very nice to you that day because you were acting up in my classroom. But at the end of the day, we have an opportunity as educators to make an impact, whether it's an emotional impact or a social impact or an educational impact. We have an opportunity to make that impact. And I think that's what, getting back to AUTeach, I think that's what so excites me about what we get to do with our students, because we get to make an impact on our college students mm-hmm. and give them a chance to be a part of this program. We're a smaller program. There's a relationship between the students and our lecturers and our professors in the program, so they feel like they're a part of something, but we're training them to go out and make an impact in the world. And that's what's truly exciting.
Yeah. And like you said, like they're making an impact, not just on their classrooms, but those students that they're teaching will be not only the future STEM workforce of Alabama, but also future scientists. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that we train our students in this program is just understanding the nature of science. We're not just teaching science facts, but we want to help our students understand the nature of science, and we want to train them to be young scientists. Yeah. And have that spark of interest in science that they may study in college and go on and a PhD in physics and do whatever, so that
and build micronuclear reactors that allow us to colonize the moon one day, like
exactly
crazy things that can happen.
And that all starts with having more science teachers in Alabama.
It really does. And so I'm looking at our time here. We've sort of hit the upper limit of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so in the future, we're gonna continue this series of videos. Like I said earlier, this is just an introduction. So you get to know us, get to know our passion, our heart a little bit more. Hopefully next time we're gonna have somebody sitting right here that we're gonna be dialoguing with as well, or next to me or wherever, where we can talk about some of these issues that are really affecting the state in terms of recruitment or retention, or what we're doing here educationally, or to hear perspectives from principals or former administrators and what they're looking for from teachers, or what we're doing to train teachers. But as we get ready to close, is there any final word, something that you thought, I really want to say this and I haven't had a chance to say it yet?
We're just grateful for the opportunity to address the science teacher shortage in Alabama in the way that this is. From a personal standpoint, a program like this would have been really helpful for me in my career trajectory. It took me a lot longer to get to where I was and where I am. Now, it took me a while to realize that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But programs like the UTeach model and places like AUTeach and the other institutions we've mentioned in Alabama, I'm grateful for these opportunities that recruit students who already know that they love science and already know that they want a career helping people, and providing them an opportunity to test the waters with science teaching, to have an opportunity to see if it's for them, and to provide authentic teaching experiences. Yeah. And for some students, they may think, oh, I think I want to do this. And then they realize it's not for them. And having that level of introduction is, informational for them to, that they may think, I always wondered if I could do that.
Yeah.
But especially for the people like me who never considered teaching, the thought never crossed my mind. And it took me a long time to come to the realization. And so I'm just grateful that the state is funding programs like this, that Auburn University is promoting opportunities like this and supporting programs like this, because it's a great need for the state. And it's just, I'm really proud to be a part of a program like this that is, trying to not just we're not trying to be a teacher factory. We're trying to attract people who love science, who want to help people, and who would be great teachers. And we want to train them to be great teachers. Beyond that intro-level class, we want to give them a thorough background into research-backed strategies for teaching.
Yeah.
And we want to give them the feedback and the scaffolding that they need to learn for themselves how to be a good teacher.
And also, one of the things we're trying to do is support them in that first year of teaching. Yeah. Be there for them that first year of teaching.
Yeah. Beyond when they graduate. Yeah.
So
I'm great. That's what I'm grateful for.
Good. So in closing, if you're watching this and you're an AU student or parent of a potential student, principal, teacher, whatever, if you have anybody who's coming to Auburn University anytime soon, have them go to auburn.edu/AUTeach, one word, AUTEACH, to find out more about our program. There are some great financial incentives that we have right now for students that want to take our classes. There's some tuition reimbursements available for students that enter into our program fully. There's some scholarships available. And for students that are coming to Auburn, brand new students, if you're a COSAM student, your COSAM orientation class, I think it's SCMH 1950, we can sub our AUTeach introductory class for that elective. So there's an opportunity for you to take our class and it count as part of your course of study. And there's some financial incentives involved. So go to auburn.edu/AUTeach. You can reach out to either of us via the website. You can reach out to our student recruiter and advisor, Sam Armstrong, for any questions there. But
or if you have students going to those other 6 institutions in Alabama.
Yeah. So reach out to, and if you have a student, if you're watching this, you have a student who's going to West Alabama or South Alabama and you want information and you only know how to contact us, we will get you in touch with those people, because this is a partnership. This really is a partnership. So, Matt, thanks for taking the time to talk with me today. And
thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. I'm glad we finally were able to get this on the calendar and make it happen. And until next time, thank you.